Alright guys, I have a bit of a confession to make. No, I am not AI, nor am I a spy sent by the CIA. I am simply a man on the internet who loves what some would call generic JRPGs. Now the reason why I bring that up is quite simple. I recently sunk a decent chunk of time into a game named Trinity Trigger, which was developed by Three Rings and published by FuRyu. Interestingly enough, this happens to be the second game I've played by Three Rings, which is also known for a One Piece game on the 3DS titled Romance Dawn, and the not-so-great Tokyo Ghoul Call to Exist. And yes, if you are wondering, I did play Tokyo Ghoul. Anyways, their publisher FuRyu is one I've played a few games from before, such as Crystar, The Alliance Alive, The Legend of Legacy, so hopefully you see a pattern here with the creative name of Trinity Trigger. So, with that being said, I want you to join me as I share my thoughts about this game to answer the most important question of all. Was Trinity Trigger good? To properly answer that question, I'll be assessing the gameplay, the story, the voice acting, and its replayability, so let's dive right in. Just like the title implies for the game, its combat system revolves around that of triggers, which is just fancy talk for magical talking weapons. There are 8 weapons total that all 3 of the main characters can use at any time once unlocked. Each of these weapons operate on a combo system that splits off into 2 options per combo block, so while 2 characters can use the same weapon at the same time, their combos and finishers can differ. To discourage spamming, the game also uses a stamina circle that makes moves deal chip damage if bled dry. Interestingly enough, this meter can be refilled if the player dodges at the last moment of an enemy's attack. In addition to the stamina circle is the ability to dodge, use the weapon's aura for added effects such as higher defense or damage temporarily, and the weapon's special ability. The player is also capable of switching between the 3 members at any time to keep combat fluid. The AI in this game is awful. It cannot be tweaked nor use the weapon aura on its own, just FYI. At the beginning of the game, all of the mechanics work decently, but by the end of it, it almost feels like a big old cluster. While there are 8 weapons to choose from, a lot of monsters and bosses are only weak to a few. To play optimally in this game is to switch to the strongest weapon at the same time, which also involves switching all of your gems your characters have equipped to said weapon, which results in a lot of menuing. This quickly leads to trigger exhaustion, as you can only see the same animation so many times without variation before it becomes mundane. This is not to say that there isn't any challenge in this game, as some fights will have you clenched up. However, the systems in place are not enough after the first 10 hours to stay truly engaging versus playing on autopilot, as certain gems overshadow the rest. I get what the developers were going for, but in typical FuRyu fashion, combat is always a hair away from being great in all their titles. And don't get me started on a quick selection menu for the items. It seems like a good idea, but in reality, I found going to the actual in-game menu to select said item to be quicker. But let's move on to the story instead, shall we? The story is focused on Cyan, Elise, and Xantis, who travel across Trinitia searching for armors that contain triggers, and most importantly the truth behind Cyan's destiny. As in typical JRPG fashion, Cyan is not just a random guy who decided to leave his peaceful village for greener pastures. He is much more than that. Overall, the story and its presentation are okay, but my biggest issue with it is the lack of urgency and variation in its approach. Urgency is a great plot tool as it helps you create tension in the story as it begins to build up between each arc. It also helps to keep the player wondering what is going to happen next, so they naturally gravitate towards said event. A great example of this sense of urgency is when Unit and Seymour in Final Fantasy X are getting married, but the squad says, yeah, it's going to be a no from us, dog. The tension the game brought with that event would then go on to propel the player to the next segment, where it kept growing from there. Trinity Trigger did not do that for me, even in the slightest. Variation is also a big deal to me, as you bounce from one town and alter to the next with a slight deviation here and there. The towns look and feel different, but the armas were just the same old dungeons with a different coat of paint. It makes the story as a whole feel like it's one big sandwich, as all the layers within just blend. Do not get me wrong, I am down with sandwiches, but JRPGs do better in this department when it's split up into smaller but different meals. Even though I recently completed the game, I could not tell you what dungeon my favorite was because they were all ascending or descending buildings with monsters and mimics spread throughout them. So when it comes to the story, it starts off well, but the deeper you go into it, the less you may start to care until the very end. But by then, for most of us, it is a bit too late. Moving on to the voice actors, I will keep it simple and sweet. Cyan is voiced by Xander Mobus.
Come to think of it, we never got the chance to do any real sightseeing.
Well, I mean, a lot happened.
I assumed I'd just live a scavenger's life, taking care of Fearn back in Woodroost.
Who also voices the Joker from Persona 5 and recently Govel from Unicorn Overlord. Elise is voiced by Melissa Hutchinson.
Pleased to meet you. My name's Elise Quaz, and you must be Cyan, correct? I'd like to hire you for a job. Will you hear me out?
Who also voices Panette and Arvel from Fire Emblem, and Katie Forrester from Yokai Watch. Then there is Xantis, who is voiced by Rico Fajardo.
Jumping a guy when his back is turned? Now that's just cowardly. Don't feel like talking, eh?
Who are you?
The name's Xantis, and I'm here to save your ass.
What?
Who also voices Ryohei Sasagawa from Reborn, Benamaru from That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime, and Lemillion from My Hero Academia. There are also the triggers for each character. Flam is voiced by Lisa Raymold.
So this is the power of Libris. Huh? Something's happening to me.
Wise is voiced by Caitlin Elizabeth.
So you didn't summon this one? My apologies. I shouldn't have jumped to conclusions. My name is Wise. Like your friend there, I am also a trigger.
And Rai is voiced by Erica Mendez.
Whoa! Feels like I just got hit by lightning!
You okay over there?
Never better! Oh yeah!
Overall, the vocal performances in this game are solid. The voices of the characters fit them and their personalities quite well. Unfortunately, some segments go on for a bit too long without any meaning behind them, but hey, they did not write the script, they just speak it. Either way though, I do look forward to hearing these actors again in other mediums. Regarding its replayability, this is a game that is short by a JRPG standard, but that is also its strength. The main campaign took me just over 15 hours to complete, and during my run, I did as many feasible side quests as possible. While I was not exactly captivated by the game, I will say that it grew on me. And I just went ahead and did all the side quests after beating it due to the short run length. This added on an additional 7 or so hours, which brought my final time to 22 hours in game and 25 hours according to Steam. The side quests were your standard fetch quest or fight X monster X times with some spicy bosses at the tail end of them. The real incentive for doing them was not even the rewards, but unlocking all the triggers for all the characters. So I can tell you I played this game from start to finish, and I do not regret it. I do not think it's a game that I will return to in the future, but for the $14 USD, the price was just right. It is a low stakes and low investment game, perfect for the Steam Deck or Nintendo Switch if you happen to be on travel. In conclusion, Trinity Trigger is at its core an average game that ends before it becomes a chore. It is simple and fun, but its faults prevent it from being great. While this is not necessarily a bad thing, I would steer clear of this title at full price. The gameplay is exciting at first, but quickly hits its ceiling with a lack of variety in weapons and combos, which could have been alleviated by making certain weapons exclusive to certain party members. This would have allowed for more combo choices due to only one character requiring the animations. And do not get me started about the number of mimics in those damn dungeons. Story-wise, it is a lot of cake with very little frosting until the very end, which is just too late for anyone to care. But the side quests do hint that there could be more on the horizon. The voice acting is great for what it is, but the script at times felt like it went on and on with very little reason. Finally, the game does offer post-content if the main story is not enough, with a few challenging fights at the end. It is just a shame that the evolution in combat stops within a few hours, which makes the latter encounters feel a bit stale. But with that being said, let me answer the most important question of all. Was Trinity Trigger good? At asking price, no. But on sale? Absolutely. I will say that I concur with its overall reception, as the product does its job, just not as well as many would hope. I, however, have said enough though. So, Trinity Trigger, please take it away.
Must be nice. Wish I could get Rai to give a damn about me.
Why should I, you bozo? You just do whatever you want.
Ha! You catch on quick.